O'Reilly. You need parts? O'Reilly Auto Parts has parts. Need them fast? We've got fast. No matter what you need, we have thousands of professional parts people doing their part to make sure you have it. Product availability. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today. You ever get that feeling the walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating you? You crave some wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe in a spot all your own. Well, head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forests, mountains, streams, you name it. Search by acreage. You can search by location. You can search by the kind of hunting and fishing you're dreaming of. Land.com. It is where the adventure begins.
I guess I grew up on an older road.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 134. I'm here with Phil, the engineer. Say hi, Phil.
Hello, Ben.
Good to see you, buddy.
You too. I feel like it's been a while.
Yeah, me too. What have you been up to? I was on vacation.
You were?
Oh, yeah.
That was vacation?
It was like, yeah, that was vacation.
I didn't know.
I'm not
You
good
didn't
at
inform me. No one informed me.
I'm not good at vacations.
Okay.
Every time I'm on vacation, I still work, and I never relax.
Mm-hmm.
That's a curse. It's a curse. What have you been doing?
Not a whole lot. I did the plebeians float on the Madison.
Oh,
yesterday with my lovely wife.
That's nice.
Just, get away. That was fun.
I haven't seen your wife in a while. How's she doing?
Good.
So it's a Christmas party. I felt like her and I had a connection.
You think so?
Yeah, like it's a friendly connection.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But I got that.
I felt like we could be friends. Like we could hang out.
It's possible.
I'm not feeling.
I'm not going to admit it.
Like couples.
Not going to admit that it's true.
Couples time, like a couples date. You've not met my wife.
I haven't. No.
See, now we're just peeling back the curtain. People think we're like best friends.
No, we don't know anything about each other.
We try to stay away from each other as much
as
possible. Well, one thing that's for sure, we've had a lot of emails lately. My gosh, thanks for everybody. And I'll just start with a little bit of housekeeping. For the Great American Outdoors Contest, we got a lot of stuff going on. A lot of people have made very long, very intricate videos. And some poems. We got some poems, Phil. You'll like that. We got some interesting imagery. No illustrations as of yet. But a lot of stuff in there. I'm gonna wait another week. We're gonna go over the winners next week. Hopefully, the Great American Outdoors Act will be passed by the Senate, by the House. By then, and we'll be able to celebrate as we give you guys your prizes. But good work to everybody out there that has emailed in already. But we still have a big deal going on. Several people, including our friend Eric Hall, have written in to say that we have not talked about what Phil's hunt's going to be. What your first hunt's going to be. We dropped it. We made an excuses. We have avoided it. Phil, are we going to do it? We're going to do this thing?
I mean, it's inevitable, right?
Is it?
I think it is.
It's inevitable. All right. Well, we have a message to you from Eric Hall.
Oh, can't wait.
Hey, Phil. Ben, Eric here. Yeah, I'm listening. Jump in here and send Phil a little message. Get him motivated. Get him pumped up. Get him up to a 6 or 7 anyway. Phil, you got a tremendous opportunity. Let's feel like that. I don't really know what it is to be an onset hunter, adult onset hunter. I kind of grew up doing it, so it's different for me. Different for me to think of how to motivate you. I think Ben, too, other than get you out there and do it, hope you get a little adrenaline, get you a little confidence. What a tremendous tremendous freedom to be able to go out there, just even walk around in the woods by yourself, hunt. Freedom.
Go poop.
Be able to do it. Enjoy the public lands.
Sounds
So
like Eric's
you got
turning
a
left.
tremendous opportunity there. I hope you'll seize it. I mean, I'd love to hunt with a meat eater crew. So you've got a great opportunity to hunt with a meat eater crew. So jump on that thing, get in there, get motivated. Y'all get something planned up despite this COVID thing, and let's hear about it. All right, listen, enjoyed the show. Appreciate y'all.
Any response officially?
Wow. I'm more proud than ever to be able to get out there and enjoy my freedom on public lands.
It seems that Eric was mostly interested in your motivations.
That's
As
true.
you said, your number is slowly going up. He wants you to be more excited. He wants you to be as excited as he might be, or many other listeners would be, to get to hunt with the likes of.
It's not lost on me that I am I'm privileged to be in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just got to get out there, man.
You got to do it.
I got to do it.
Let's talk about it for a minute.
I don't know if my number can go much higher until I'm out there.
Let's talk about it for a minute.
Okay.
I got to talk to you about tiki drinks later, maybe after the interview.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, I got a tiki drink mishap last week during vacation.
Oh no.
I think we should talk about, like, what do you want to do? You want to just go all in? Because I could take you on like a pretty gnarly backcountry deer hunt. I feel we got to start you with a rifle. What is that?
Okay, why do you feel that way?
It's a more efficient killing tool. Mm-hmm. It'd be easier for you to learn. Archery is definitely a craft that takes a while to learn. And in terms of its efficiency as a killing tool, you have to get much closer. Although archery elk is probably the tip-top experience, but I don't want to spoil you at the beginning.
No, you know what? I mean, I know,
build you up.
I know you want to do this sooner than later, but I feel like I need to work my way up to that.
To deer.
Maybe not. I
deer.
I know that's a lot of people's first experience.
Yeah. I think if you want to work your way up to it, I'll give you a few other options. You could go grouse hunting. We could go grouse hunting.
Sure.
That's fun. Mm-hmm. We could go duck hunting. That's also fun. Pheasant hunting, really any upland bird. There's dogs. There's, plentiful, bountiful meats you have to learn how to shoot anyway. You got to learn what is a rooster, what is a hen, all these types of things.
Sure.
So you have to give me some clues here. What do we? Birds? The birds easier?
I think ducks sounds fun.
Ducks. Okay.
I don't think you're that into, from what you talk about. I don't know if you're a big upland bird guy.
I like it all.
Okay.
I like it all. I would say I'd spend more time on the big game side these days, but I love duck hunting. I love upland hunting. And so if you want it to be a duck hunt, that'll give us all fall to talk about it and build it up and then record it, say, like December.
Okay.
You feeling that?
Yeah. Plans may change, but how about we count on that for now?
Count on that for now. Okay,
Sure.
That's exciting. Eric Hall, we're talking to you now, bud. I'm going to need you to think about some books that Phil needs to read for duck hunting. We're going to think about some conservation groups he needs to join, some banquets he needs to attend, probably social distancing
This
banquets.
sounds very involved now. I'm having second thoughts.
Yeah. Phil,
Listen, you keep building it. The more you build it up, then I just think you're putting it too high. The pedestal's high.
Maybe.
Keep it low.
Maybe. You just, at this point, maybe you get your hunter safety course, and then I'll just come and get you one day and be like, let's go.
Oh,
and
sure.
In the truck will be all the things you need to get done.
At
whatever.
4 a.m., I'll hear a pounding on my window.
I've spoken to your wife, who will be one of my friends. And
Sure,
I'll say,
yeah.
hey, set this up where Phil is just.
Okay.
I'm standing over him in the night. I tap him and I say, Philip,
Shotgun in hand.
yeah, Philip,
Get out of bed.
get out of bed. There's ducks to be killed. All right. Well, either way, we'll record it all. I could see the beginning of that podcast, just heavy breathing in the bedroom, and get out of my house, man. What are you doing?
It'll be very, very real, very unscripted.
Okay.
Yep.
We're going to do it. All right. Well, now we have what everyone seems to be really enjoying lately, and what I am enjoying, Phil's favorite, the continuation, episode 2. We're now acting like this is its own little mini show. Episode 2 of season 2 of Work Sharp's Not So Sharp Moments. Play the jingle, Phil!
Work sharp, not so sharp moments. Sharp so you don't have to be.
Season 2! Yeah!
All right. Phil, we haven't talked about your season 2 little ditty there. What do you have to say to the people about the cat at the end gets me every time?
I just thought it was the right choice to make.
Yes.
I wanted to set the stage properly. This is not season 1. This is on a whole new level.
You did well, and we're going to do better this year, we promise. Well, thank you to Worksharp for supplying the prizes for all of you. You'll get a Worksharp field sharpener for all of you that we select. If you have some time, go to Worksharp's YouTube page and check out the Worksharp Workshop. Did I get that? The Worksharp Workshop.
Workshop.
It's a weekly hot tip show about knife sharpening. So if you want to go over there, check that out. But this week's, I just went through about an hour of reading Not So Sharp Moments. One of my favorites was a guy took a THC gummy on his way into camp.
Different THC.
Yeah, different THC.
Gotcha.
We should have gummies. I still believe that we could sell lots of gummies. Just gummy bears.
Yeah. Do not take them while hunting.
No. This guy, he took them hiking into camp and then got scared that the police were at camp and freaked out and got real pale and eventually made it and killed an elk. But I didn't select that one. And I'll tell you why, Phil, because I've been fishing a lot with my boy, my 3-year-old boy, James. And we've been slaying the bluegill. You know what bluegill is?
A fish.
Little panfish.
Yeah, I've caught one before.
You call? Oh my God, really?
On the ice.
Wow, all on the ice.
It's one of the 3 fish that I've caught.
That's Steven Ranella fellow, I bet.
Yep, actually, yeah, that's true.
Bastard. So we've been catching a lot of bluegill. This last weekend, my parents were in town. We caught 8 bluegill in one little session, and then I made little bluegill fish sticks. They were delicious. So I've been thinking a lot about
Sounds good.
Bluegill. I'm trying to get real good, and that's why Steve Smith's email piqued my interest. So listen up, Phil.
Okay.
I am very excited to hear this year's cornucopia of Not So Sharp Moments. And it's true, there will be a cornucopia. I have my own to add to the pile. This story is not about myself being dull, but my close friend. But in the end, I may be guilty by association. So Phil, be prepared to judge this gentleman, Steve, based on his actions. That's really what Not So Sharp Moments it's about. It's about judging others.
Shouldn't be tough.
It's about judging others. During the summer of 2007, after high school graduation and before heading off to college, my best friend and I spent some of our time doing one of only a few things, working on houses for my dad, trying to be badass rodeo cowboys all over the western U.S., and, of course, fishing. We had recently transplanted several large bluegill into a pond on my parents' property, mostly for aesthetic reasons. We loved to toss in grasshoppers and worms to watch the fish eat their hearts out, and would occasionally partake in some catch and release fishing at home. Seems very Americana thus far. Seems very nice. One evening, while being generally up to no good, my friend and I were trying to blow up anything we could find with small firecrackers. Black cats, to be exact. Phil, do you have any experience with black cats?
Yeah, some.
I do. I've put them in mailboxes. Is that illegal?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cut that out.
Okay.
And we may or may not have raided my dad's beer fridge. So he set the scene. Again, a very American young boy experience, assuming he's not really he's a young man at this point. He's rolling around with firecrackers, drinking beer. I would say that's a pretty good recipe for a not so sharp moment, Phil. My friend decides to see if the one black cat in a long string with a green fuse would truly go off underwater, like we had long heard rumor of. His water of choice was the pond that held our prize bluegill. I probably told him this was ill-advised, as the fish would eat most anything we threw in the water, due to the fact that all we threw in the water was generally things fish like to eat. He dismissed this warning, lit the fuse, and dropped it in the pond. My dad's largest and favorite fish promptly swam over and snatched the mouthful of explosives right up. In terror, we watched as an underwater explosion similar to that of a depth charge in a World War II action film ripped a tiny shockwave through the pond, immobilizing the panfish instantly. With thoughts of both my soon-to-be angry dad and not wanting to waste the fish running through my head, I netted, filleted, and deposited the fish into the freezer. Then took the leftovers and placed them in my mom's tomato plants.
Oh.
Yeah. Later that evening, the whistle was blown and our terrible deed was told to my dad via my older brother joking about how my friend should order fish when we went to dinner later that night. I feel like if I'm the brother, classic older brother move. Like, we should have some fish sticks.
How does that sound?
Bluegill. Although thoroughly upset, my dad was able to eventually find humor in this situation, and using the fillets and a very nice batch of ceviche also helped his attitude toward the situation. I maintain my innocence in this not-so-sharp moment, but I will let you and Phil be the judges. Steve. P.S. I do not condone the use of explosives for fishing. In fact, I can see how, although a pure accident, this story could ruffle certain feathers. Thank you again. Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't be doing this, but that's you're in the trust tree here. You're in the nest. We know you're doing stupid things.
Sure,
we're prompting them.
The whole point of this operation.
We're all telling the truth.
Yeah,
we're all telling the truth for the sake of humor. So don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about it at all. Now, Phil, do you believe that Steve has any guilt in this situation for allowing his friend to chuck explosives into the family pond?
It sounds like he did. It sounds like, I mean, he tried to hide it, but at least he made a meal, did some composting. So it's like,
if you make mistakes,
sure,
the best thing to do is clean it up.
Yeah, no, he made lemons out of exploded lemonade out of exploded bluegill.
Yes, that's probably what I would do, Steve. Is I think about what you did here, man. You know, we've all been the part of peer pressure. Phil has heard lots of peer pressure. Actually, Phil, you're pretty immune to peer pressure. I've tried to press you into many things that you say no to.
Yeah, it just comes with age.
Yeah,
I used to want to look cool, and then I realized I'm already cool enough for me.
For you. All right, we'll see. We'll see, Phil. We'll see. Steve, you did well to eat the fish. You did well to help your mom's tomato plants, and you did well to own up to your misdeeds. And so for that, you get a Work Sharp Field Sharpener. Congratulations. Phil, play the jingle.
Work sharp, not so sharp moments. Sharp so you don't have to be. Season 2. Yeah.
We're getting a lot more not so sharp moments coming up this entire year. We got a bunch more of them to do, so please, please, please inundate Phil and I with as many stupid stories from the outdoors as you possibly can at thc@themeateater.com. Again, if you want to be considered and you'd like to win, thc@themeateater.com as soon as possible. Now, Phil, before we get to the interview, we should talk a little bit about who these folks are, and I have to apologize for last week. We said 2 episodes ago that we were going to have Ryan and Hillary Lampers on last episode, 133, but we had Jim Poswitz passed away, so I felt that I wanted to shift towards that to make sure we could give a proper tribute to Jim. And thank you for the number of you, many of you that messaged me on Instagram and wrote emails thanking me for highlighting Jim and for playing that little clip at the end. Thank you to Phil for putting a little ambient sound after the clip ended.
Yeah, well, it felt weird going to silent, and it also felt weird cutting to the song.
Yeah,
so
you did right.
Good.
It gave a lot of people the feels. Again, if you are a big fan of hunting and ethics, and even this show, you should be reading Beyond Fair Chase. Doesn't benefit me at all to promote that, other than it's a good piece of work. Hundreds of thousands of people have read it, and more should. And so, thanks for all you guys for listening and caring about Jim and his family. So, before we get to Hillary and Ryan, a lot of this, you listened to this podcast, right? This interview?
Yes.
Phil. We talked about this a couple episodes ago. A lot of it is about marriage and hunting. Or really just marriage altogether. How to be a reasonable, compassionate spouse. So do you have any thoughts on what you heard there, Phil? As you get into, you're going to be hunting soon, man. And you're going to have to deal with this.
I think I said this a couple weeks ago that it makes me nervous. Because I said, I feel guilty even just going to the grocery store for an hour, leaving my wife with the 2 kids. And I also just want to appreciate how just honest Hillary was and Ryan about their relationship to hunting and how that affects their relationship.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great conversation.
I did too. I was surprised. You go into those situations, you don't really know what you're going to get into. I know that Hillary and Ryan, each of them have different expertise. Ryan is one of the best backcountry hunters in Montana, or hey, maybe across the country. They've built their Stealthy Hunter platform on being healthy and kicking ass in the backcountry. So it certainly is interesting to have that juxtaposition. But what I didn't intend and what I didn't think of is that we were going to be talking about their journey in their marriage and then what came of it. Certainly, they are displaying classic gender roles, right? Guy goes out hunting, female stays home.
Sure.
That's a classic way, but I'm certain there are many people listening like, hey, listen, my mom was a hunter, my dad stayed home, or they both hunted together, or all the different ways that this goes. So certainly this is not meant to be a counseling session, but it was, even for me as a young father, somebody who likes to go hunting, for you, Phil, because you're going to be, once you get to like 8 or 9 on the excitement scale, then you're going to have to deal with this. Your wife's going to be, what are you doing this weekend? You're like, duck hunting with O'Brien. And she'll probably start to resent me, which is going to be a big deal. Mm-hmm. So stuff to look forward to in like year 5 or 6 of your hunting journey.
Sounds like you've thought about this more than I have.
Yeah, no, I've mapped the next 6 years of our relationship.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Because it's important to me. Ranella's really starting to encroach. Really. How was Tom Brokaw's ranch, by the way?
Oh, it was gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
Yes.
How's he doing?
Right by a creek, views of the mountains.
Is he doing good?
Yeah, he's doing good. He's gone through his bout of health issues, but still kicking. Great stories.
Yeah, listen to the Meat Eater podcast. Tom Brokaw coming up at some point in the near future. I thought that was pretty cool. But Ryan and Hillary Lampers coming up right now. You're going to hear a lot about their life. Please listen. Hopefully it helps you with even if it's not your marriage, with other people in your life that have to sacrifice because you love to go hunting. It is a huge deal. No matter your gender, no matter your marital status, it doesn't really make much of a difference other than the fact that we're all trying to balance what we love to do outside, the disconnection that we have, which at some essence is kind of why we do it, and then at the same time wanting to make sure our family, friends, and loved ones know that we appreciate them too, and we're not trying to run off and be away from them for long periods of time, and then maybe how you can craft a life where everybody can go together. So something to think of on episode 134. Please enjoy one of my favorite conversations in quite a while, Ryan and Hillary Lampers from Three Forks, Montana. Hillary and Ryan, what is up?
How's it going, Ben?
We got to act like we haven't been talking for 2 hours.
I know. It's a little difficult.
It's a little weird.
That's a weird thing about podcasting. Like I said,
you almost want to
hand people a headphone when
hand us the sets when you walk in
just
the door.
walk in and then just start talking.
But then we'd have to be sort of connected the whole time.
Then
like
it'll be,
around.
social distancing probably wouldn't be.
But we had a great conversation, though.
Hell yeah. We wish we would have recorded that. Yeah. And that's it. That's it, guys. We're done. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, we're here. I usually like to, when we're in the studio too much, as I was telling you guys, way too much in our studio. So it's nice to be out and be in Three
Forks.
Forks.
For coming over here.
Can you guys describe where we are?
Gosh, we
Give
are
a shot.
Out Three Forks, Montana, kind of out in the prairie. We love our new place. I mean, we for folks that know our story, we come from Washington State and kind of West Coast there, green all the time.
Big trees.
Totally different than here.
Lots of rain.
Like we don't have a tree on our property. I was telling you, Ben, like when we first got this place, we got this picture like, okay, well, we'll just turn this place into what we had back there. We'll plant some trees. We'll grow a garden. It's going to be great. Build our greenhouse.
A lush jungle.
Fruitful.
We're going to have a permaculture. Like, what were you calling it? Like the regenerative agriculture.
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing.
No worries. Easy. And we just put a few trees in like 2 weeks ago.
We tried to dig fence
and we're
holes.
Like
and we
hoping
were like
and praying that they get enough water to actually grow.
Yeah, you gotta
last
be out there.
Spring we dug fence poles for our garden, fence post holes. We hadn't planted a garden yet because we were going to put the fence up. You couldn't even dig half a foot.
I got a great workout though.
Into the soil because it's pure clay. And then we were like, we are toast. We are not going to be able to plant anything in the ground.
Well, So like where we're out on the prairie. There's no trees anywhere. It's definitely a dry climate.
Yeah.
And our property is overrun with grasshoppers at the moment, and they're just growing and getting bigger.
So what's the grasshopper strategy?
Oh man. So you can see today, I don't know if you noticed the chickens out wandering the perimeter. We've just, we planted about a month ago, and at our prior residence, we had slug issues. Chickens are pretty good with slugs. We had all these kind of traps and copper and stuff that we could keep the slugs off. Well, this hopper thing is totally new for us. And last year, we had an infestation. We thought, man, hopefully that was like this fluky thing and it doesn't come around again this year. And right now, we've got these little 1/4 to 1/2 inch grasshoppers, and there's literally, I think, 1 billion of them in our yard, and they're already just crushing our garden. So the only really thing that we can think of doing is getting more birds, like more chickens. We got more ducks this year, and we're just turning them loose. Like we planned on building this kind of like chicken run around, like a moat around our garden. And just this past couple weeks, I've just let the chickens kind of take run of the yard, kind of train the dogs to not kill them. And so they're out there. You'll notice they're out there just crushing grasshoppers all day. So we're hoping that makes a difference, but we won't know.
Is there a grasshopper rut? Do we know?
My mom said it's on 3-year cycles.
Oh, okay.
So she said you don't know, because we had it really bad last year, and that was our first year. So she said you don't know if you're in the 2nd year or the 3rd year right now.
You're never going to know.
Last year, our dogs would try to like take a run through the yard, and they would just like slow down
Blind
immediately.
you, like
because
smacking you in the face.
Yeah, there's like this ocean is parted, and it's just grasshoppers flying everywhere.
For everybody that gardens that listen, I think like an increasing amount of people that hunt garden.
Yeah.
Thanks to you guys in part, but I think thanks to a lot of just it lines up. You know, it's just a holistic way to eat. Absolutely. But I think for sure, you know, every gardener has that problem. We got voles at my house.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's our problem. Like I got to go out and trap voles. Yeah. That's my daily thing. But you guys had slugs in Washington, grasshoppers here. I'm 30 minutes away and I got voles. I mean, every gardener has a battle.
Yeah.
Well, it just goes to show you that there's creatures everywhere who are trying to survive as well, and so you have to compete with them if you want to take over their space.
Well, and growing your
pretty
own
much
food
what's happening.
It sounds great, and it's like got this romantic feel to it. You know, just grow your own garden. You know, you fill that other side of the plate with the garden. But it's a lot of work. Yeah. I mean, I look at my garden right now today, and I see like a week's worth of things that I should be doing out there, and you know, weeding and figuring all these things out. But it's a ton of work, but it's so well worth it when you're like harvesting that stuff all summer. So.
And I found out that Ryan, I hate Costco. They're not a sponsor, thank God.
No,
but I hate them.
Yeah, we've had to go a few times.
I try to avoid it myself.
Because of the summit, we need a lot of food, and you can't buy it in bulk like that anywhere but Costco, you know, cost-wise, unless we ordered from Amazon like 6 months ago or whatever. But
Yeah. I like to torture myself every time I go. Like, I went to Costco. I got to sadly eat a corn dog on the way out just to let myself know this isn't right.
A corn dog and a piece of pizza.
Yeah, a giant piece of pizza.
Well, and like you, Ben, I'm the same way. I want to try to avoid any grocery store if at all possible. So yeah, the garden fits into that. The hunting fits into that. Try to fill both sides of the plate. Canning, all those type things. As much as you can do to not have to go to the store as often, I want to do that. I'd rather do these things at home.
And we were really close in Washington. We had a large greenhouse. You know, growing season was basically from April and through November, sometimes depending on what the food was. We literally were just buying staples at the grocery store. And we thought we were going to replicate that here.
Nope. It hasn't happened yet.
And you know, it's funny, when we first moved here, you know, talking about emails, we talked about emails earlier from listeners. I got an email from a woman who, I think she'd lived up somewhere by Kalispell or something. And she had moved to a different state. And she said, well, good luck growing cabbages in Montana, because that's all you're going to be able to grow. I mean, she was like, seemed mad. It was like mad that we moved to Montana and that we were going to be screwed. Now we were not going to be able to grow anything. I showed Ryan that email and I was like, geez. And now I I almost feel like I totally understand. What
you're
that
writing her
email
back
was
like,
about.
I'm with you.
She knew something.
She did. I'm like,
I'm
oh,
writing
God.
those emails now to people. Stay out of Montana if you want to grow a tomato.
You can only grow
Stay out
cabbage.
it. Go to Missoula.
Broccoli.
Missoula, it has the hippie reputation and crunchy reputation because you can actually grow vegetables there, which
That's
you can't
true.
grow in Bozeman.
It's true.
I mean, I think we laughed at that email originally, and now we completely understand. There are difficulties here
Pressure
that we
test.
never could foresee.
Well, I was looking around about you guys, and I saw you at one point had a canning class that you did, or like a canning seminar.
Yep.
We have a book.
We did a
book.
dehydration canning book, but we've also done talks on it to try to promote it and kind of talk about what it is. We did a few little seminars out in Yakima. We talked about it.
We have. We have
Washington.
definitely talked. We just kind of talked about the whole lifestyle. People are very interested in this, like, fact that my husband, don't look at me. I am not the canner in this family. He is the canner. Like, he got into that years ago just from a big thing that we don't like, is food waste. And as you probably know as well, just having a podcast and talking to a lot of people, food waste is huge in our country, especially. We probably throw more food away than we actually consume. And so when you grow a garden and you have all this food, sometimes you know, for sure he's growing way more than we can actually eat as a family of 4. So what we can't give away and what comes out, his thing was like, well, wasting this food or whatever, let's try to find ways. So like, with the beets we have here, was a great way we could keep our beets, because beets are hard to keep all year round. It's just, it got to potatoes, same thing. You'd start canning that, and then it just kind of became an obsession. And then it was like canning or preserving everything. And then we got into dehydration and keeping food that way. And he was mainly doing that for like his backcountry trips. And then he got into this thing where like, I'm not buying any more backcountry food. I'm going to make all my own food. And so he's really into that. And then I just did an ebook that we have on our website. And I had just taken pictures for years of our gardens, of him, of us, and of all the food. And then we make the recipes. And then it was like, oh, well, all these foods that we're using and the herbs and all the stuff we're growing, they all have medicinal value. And so then the book had like each food, like what its medicinal properties were and why you would want it. And so that was kind of our very first attempt at, well, it's our first book and our last book so far. Actually, he went elk hunting, and that book came out in September. So you can imagine what I was doing all of September.
So he wasn't doing a lot of marketing.
Yeah, he was elk hunting.
I was
so
doing research.
I was pulling my hair out, creating an ebook by myself about our garden. But it's been very well received. I mean, just little things like that to help people get more information. And wow, actually the food and the food preservation has become a really huge piece of our platform, which we had no idea it was going to be that big.
Yeah, I mean, you guys talk about it. You encapsulate things like the lifestyle platform, the brands you've created, the stuff that you've done. It's amazing to me that you do what you do, you live a lifestyle you do, but then you're dedicated to teaching other people and bringing them along. I mean, you just had 20-some people here for your Western Hunting Summit. People travel around from 18 different states to come to really take part. So that's the tangible version of what you guys do on a daily basis in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. Can you explain kind of how that came to be? I think people would want to know, what is the lifestyle, if you would explain to someone, and then how did you come to want to teach people?
Yeah, gosh. I think, so how do you start on this?
It's a long answer.
Yeah, it's a long answer. As Hill mentioned prior, the food waste thing has always been an issue for me. I don't know why. I don't know where it came from. Like, not many things bother me. I'm pretty chill about most things. But when I see food waste, whether it's out of my garden or anything, and I think that's especially true with if you've grown your own, you pay attention to it way more than if you just buy it. If you buy it and it comes and goes, it's cheap. But if you grow your own or you hunt your own, you've put all this sweat equity into it. Food waste is huge. Like, you just don't want it. So you get creative on how to preserve it, dry it, put it up, soup it, make sure that nothing really goes to waste. And, obviously we have chickens now, so any waste that we do get hopefully goes out and we recover it there. But I think, I've always just enjoyed that part. And it's Hillary that has kind of pushed me into, well, let's show other people how to do these things. Because canning, I don't know, it wasn't something I did as a little guy or anything like that. But my dad has always been a big time gardener. And I used to repel against gardening. It looked like the biggest waste of time. He's out there pulling rocks, and all I want to be doing is going catching steelhead on the Skycomish River and hunting or fishing. And I just felt like, what a waste of time for some salad,
That's a T-shirt.
Yeah. And then
It's true sometimes. You're like, oh man.
and then somewhere, some way, it's in my DNA. So I got into the gardening thing and realized it wasn't a waste of time at all. You really you fall in love with it, and there's so much to dive into, and getting into kind of dialing in soils, and then you get into this whole other thing of how do you preserve it all so you don't waste any of it, because you want to grow more than you need. And then it just kind of, when we started the podcast, it felt like, why not just like share this thing that we do? Maybe it'll help other people, not just teaching people the hunting aspect or how to hunt better or help adult onset people hunt better. But there's this whole other side of the plate that you got to talk about. And quite honestly, I get just as excited about gardening and preserving food than I do about hunting. And so I think it was with Hill's knowledge, she's much smarter than I am, Ben. And she's the one that wrote the book, for Pete's sake.
I have more of the debt than he does.
It's her that
smart.
kind of pushes the envelope, like, well, let's teach this and let's talk about this more. And through the podcast, that's kind of what we've done. And people have really taken to it. And it's really cool to see others. You get all these pictures of people doing their own meal prep and canning, and they're excited about it or just starting to garden. And so, I spend hours a night answering garden questions. It's way more that than it is hunting questions, which is pretty interesting. And it was totally unforeseen when we started this, but talking about soils and what to plant, how much you should plant, and those type things.
O'Reilly Auto Parts are in the business of keeping your car on the road. O'Reilly Auto Parts offer friendly, helpful service and the parts knowledge you need for all your maintenance and repairs. If you're confused about what part you need, like what wipers are going to be the best, what replacement headlights are going to be the best, go into O'Reilly and talk to the people that work there, because they're great and they're super friendly, and they'll get you squared away where you walk out knowing you got the right thing. They've got thousands of parts and accessories in stock, either in-store or online, so you never have to worry if you're in a jam. Do you need your windshield wipers replaced? You need a brake light fixed? You need some quick service? They'll help you find the right part or point you to the nearest local repair shop for help. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts are your one-stop shop for all things auto do-it-yourself, and you can find what you need in-store or online. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit us at O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. That's O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. You ever get that feeling you're stuck inside staring at screens and a primal urge kicks in? You crave wide open spaces, fresh air, the chance to connect with the land. Well, maybe it's time to find your own piece of the wild, but searching for property can be a maze. That's where Land.com comes in. They got millions of listings across the country, from mountain ranches to hidden fishing holes. Their search tools are like a seasoned guide helping you narrow down what you want. Land.com isn't just about buying and selling. It's about finding a place to hunt, fish, explore, or simply sit by a campfire and listen to the crickets. So head over to Land.com today to turn one day into today, because trust me, there's nothing quite like the feeling of standing on your own piece of earth. There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
It mainly started because I had a job where I was dealing with social media a lot and stuff. And this is kind of, 4 or 5 years ago, Instagram wasn't quite as hot as it is now, but there was I noticed a big community of hunters on Instagram, which I found really interesting. And like we had talked earlier, Ryan and I come from very different backgrounds about hunting, and he had so many stories. All these animals that you see here, they each have a story, and nobody else heard those stories. Sometimes I didn't even hear them because I had a problem with hunting for probably over a decade of our marriage. So he would come home and not even tell me the story, So he was sharing those stories basically with his dad and his cousin, living those stories because he's predominantly a solo hunter. He's quite introverted, and I wouldn't call him shy anymore, but he used to be shy. And so sharing things like that, it just wasn't really on his radar. It wasn't like he needed to go out and tell everybody these stories. And, he'd even get these big animals, and there's just like no bragging, none of that going on. It was none of that. It was just the experience. And for him, it's just, talking about DNA. It's just part of his DNA, the whole like hunting and being alone. And I don't know anybody that can spend that much time alone and just feel totally good all the time. So I saw this culture and I was like, I feel like you should share some of this stuff. And he hated social media, dude. He had a Facebook page that he never posted on. And he was like, it's such a waste of time. I don't want to have anything to do with that. And I said, well, he didn't even know what a hashtag was, like nothing. I was like, well, you got a hashtag. Like, what is a hashtag? Like, this is so ridiculous. And so I said, we're just going to go to a coffee shop on one of my lunch breaks, and we're going to sit down. We're just going to open you an Instagram page. And so Stealthy Hunter, I just came up with this name. I said, let's just call it this because you're kind of healthy, you're kind of crunchy, but you're stealthy, because he's quiet and he's kind of scary in a way because he's not the guy that is going to come and get in your face. He's the guy that's going to sneak up on you. And you're not going to know what hit you. There was a running joke. So
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Well, it came mainly.
It sounds ominous, man. A little bit.
It came mainly because I had this other job that I had 3 business partners. They were all men, and they would randomly joke about, well, we would never mess with Hillary because we'll just wake up one day and have an arrow on our back. Like they just had this thing of like, just don't mess with Ryan. He's super cool, super chill. And you would never know what hit you. Like it would just be done, right? He's not going to get in your face and that kind of stuff. So it was a running joke. So I said, hey, how about Stealthy Hunter? And I wrote his first post. If you want to go way back there in the day, I said, this is how you write the post. And I picked one of the pictures I liked that I really liked. And then we hashtagged it. And we didn't have a podcast then.
Did you hashtag Stealthy Hunter? Like you knew, I
don't remember. I'd have to look back. I mean, it was probably super simple. I didn't even really know that much either back then. I felt like hashtags just started getting like huge, So we did that. And then he just randomly would post things, and he would post his hunt and stuff like that. And then we decided, we did some train to hunts together, and that was a really big community for us because it brought me into the community. So prior to that, I was I wasn't anti-hunting, but I really didn't care about it, and it really was not on my radar. And I had a stereotype about hunters, which is weird because my husband's a hunter.
Yeah, how did that work how'd that work for you? You just kind of kept it out of the conversation?
Yeah, it got to that point. Yeah. Which is interesting because we met at a fishing lodge and she knew
in Alaska.
My outdoor, I just loved it so much. And she knew that about me. And she knew that when in the fall would come around and I would be in the mountains. But yeah, I feel like opposites attract, and that's kind of why we, work so well together. And over time, we've been married 23 years. Eventually, it didn't take that long, but we see each other's sides. So she came to see what I got out of hunting, and I come to see what she had opposition to with it, and so you kind of meet in the middle there. And over time,
but it's not quick. And I talk about this quite a bit. Like I've been on Randy Newberg's podcast about marriage, and like people think I'm like some marriage authority because I've been able to live with a hunter who hunts a lot.
Should be. He's married to me 23 years.
He hunts a lot. When I married him, he hunted mule deer in October and turkeys in the spring. Since I've lived with him, I can't even tell you now what months he hunts. January was the off month because we can have a baby out of hunting season. Our daughter, fortunately, was born in January. There's nothing in January. You're going to be home. Now he goes goose deer hunting in Arizona. So with Randy Newberg, of all people. So it's like...
Damn it, Randy. I know you're listening to this.
They started this.
Leave him alone.
It's like, so now, but that being said, I was not that supportive of it, and he struggled with it, and I struggled with it, and it's probably more was my upbringing. It was more my misconception, and I have a whole blog and a whole podcast on my journey of understanding him and understanding that he is not doing it to try to spite me, and that I had to come to the grips of like, why is it that I hate hunting so bad? I'm actually a scientist. I mean, I've dissected human bodies. Like, I kind of enjoy that type of, to me, skinning an animal and do that. It's like the fresh dead animal that kind of freaks me out. But that's because, the whole idea of doing the other stuff, it's actually kind of intriguing to me. But I think I just had that fear. And with him, it was also something that took him away from me. And this is the common complaint you see from especially young women, where they just do this thing like, my husband wants to leave me and be with hunting. And I feel that. I wholeheartedly get it. And you can't really tell anybody until they've lived through it long enough to know that that's not necessarily the truth. Now, I will say there's a lot. Men are just more selfish by nature. Randy says this all the time. I mean, he gave our guys this weekend a bit of a lashing on the whole man, the wife and stuff, and like what you should be doing. And a lot of eyeballs in there were like,
Uncle Randy, he always
he put us all in our place.
He always knows what to say.
It's good.
But at the same time, it's women. I just always tell the women when I get these emails from young women, multiple children at home, their husband's working all the time, and then on the weekend he wants to hunt, and they're on the verge of leaving him. I mean, since I put that podcast out, it's really common.
Yeah.
I just say, listen, honey, like, either you guys are young, you need to communicate, or you need to just find something that makes you happy, because he's doing something that makes him happy. And I know it's hard when you have little children. It just really doesn't apply because you have little children. And this is where I say to guys, like, your wife's emotional state is your responsibility. Like, if you think that she's going to stay home all week with children, which you say is like the easiest job in the world, it's not the easiest job in the world.
It's the hardest job in the world. It's awful.
Yep.
If you're listening to this and you're a husband and you're like, no, just take care of the kids, it's awful. It's torture.
Yeah, you don't even get to go to the bathroom by yourself.
Yeah.
You don't get a shower by yourself. God
it's kind of like being in the
backcountry.
It's like being in the backcountry if you had in the tent were like two crackheads that you never knew what they were going to do, and they were just like always pooping everywhere. That's what it's like.
Yeah.
No breaks.
And you're like, I'm going to do something for myself. Good luck. You might get to that a week from now. So I just say, when you have young family, you have young children at home, your wife is young too, and she's not emotionally mature enough yet and you're not emotionally mature yet. It's hard. It's just simple. And so find something you love to do, whatever that is. Find something for yourself so that you don't, now Ryan and I are at an age where it's more logistics now. It's more like, okay, well, you're going to leave for 12 days. I've got this, and how do we manage that? Because he's a good guy and he loves to do that stuff. And I really don't have any problem with it. My problems are more, I think it comes more to about respect. And we have Garmin now, which when we first started this, it was like, okay, see you later. I'll be home in 2 weeks. And if I don't come back in 2 weeks, give me 3 more days. And if I don't show up in 3 more days, maybe send a search party out for me. Like, there was no there's no communication like there is now. So women are kind of really spoiled now. If their guy will invest in that, then they can actually get communication.
That's essential. Garmin InReach, sat texting, you get that app on your phone, and that is
peace of mind.
Both
sides.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and we've, so when we started this, it was more like we started trying to hunt, and what happened to me is it actually took other people outside of our marriage that were in the community for me to see that actually this community, and I say community, I just say maybe it's the Western hunting community is probably different than like the whitetail hunting community. Like, I don't really know, but we were in the Western hunting community. So trained to hunt, common suffering, camaraderie, community. and everybody, it was family oriented. Everybody's wives were there. Everybody was cheering each other on. And I was like, wow, these aren't a bunch of asshole rednecks who just want to kill stuff. I was like, these are like, I mean, people are crying at the awards ceremony. Guys are hugging each other. Like, this is not stuff that I witnessed in my husband's life. Like, he has a family that's, just the way the men are. They're conservative with each other. There's no like downright hugging each other. I grew up in a very like touchy-feely family. So to me, I always thought there's something wrong with your family. But that's just how the men in his life were raised. That's how he was raised. So when we went to Train to Hunt, we made friends. We made community. It opened these guys up. And it opened me up to see, wow, if Ryan's going to be around people like this is awesome. Like, and we needed a community together, which we didn't have before that. It was me in school and my very, very liberal, educated academia community. And Ryan worked in the fishing industry, and he was like around dudes all day that fished and hunted. So that was his community. And really, we just had a home together, and eventually we had children together, and we didn't really have a community together because we didn't know how to blend those two. So Hunt Harvest Health, this is like a really long way to get to the story, but Hunt Harvest Health came out of that experience with Train to Hunt, and he said, let's do a podcast. And I was like, dude, nobody wants to hear me talk in the hunting industry.
Well, and when I said that, my intentions were, okay, let's do this podcast together. It'd be kind of cool to do this thing. But really what I wanted to do was bring my community, which I feel like, a bunch of dudes, a bunch of hunters, these guys that want to do this thing, they want to do this thing for as long as they can. We absolutely love going into the mountains, but let's face it, a lot of us get these overuse injuries. We have issues.
Not healthy.
Health isn't maybe a top priority. They're maybe not in the best of shape.
Would be both ways.
They treat it like 2 weeks prior, do a little bit of hiking. Her genius is helping people with their nutrition and helping people with their inflammation and be able to live a better quality of life. So how about introduce her group or her intelligence with that into my group, and we all want to just hunt longer. It's like that adage, what do we say? We want to hunt till we're 80, but we want to hunt this way, our way right now till we're 80. And so, she's just so educated on health and nutrition and all those things. For some reason, she's become like this testosterone expert through all this.
It's because it's all men.
It's a bunch of guys.
Majority of men listening to my podcast.
It gets you in the hunting, gets you in the hunting industry.
Like, why do I have a hunting podcast? If you would have told me 10 years ago I was going to have a hunting podcast, I would have laughed in your face. I would have been like, you're crazy. And now I'm talking to like 85% guys in the hunting space, and it's fun.
And it's great because the questions that you get asked, they're asking it for a reason. And prior to us doing this, maybe those questions didn't get answered. Yeah. So now we've made it like her easily available to just ask her questions, or she can answer questions through the podcast. But I feel like it's benefited our community a ton, and I think both sides have benefited. So
we also sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
But my master plan was to get her
to like hunting,
and then she takes over the podcast.
Yeah, and then he doesn't have to do his podcast.
Here's something we need to examine. This may help you, Hillary. This may not. Okay. You may have already went through this, but I did this a little bit in my own life. The first year of my son's life, I was out the door, like doing things I'd never dreamed about, right? Hunts and things. And I got addicted to it. And I knew I was addicted to it, but I didn't care. And I always rationalize it. I'd say, like, honey, I'm better when I'm here. If I'm here less days and I'm happy and I'm mentally okay, and this weird comfort blanket that's out there that's like challenge, and it makes life seem easier when I'm here. All of a sudden, I'm not mad when I'm sitting in traffic on the way to work, because it's way easier doing that than it is going a mile and a half down to get water and hiking back up to camp. It's like I had that for a while, but I'm sure you've experienced it and you still experience it. That's a fine line to walk, to try to maintain, to say, like, this is good for me. I need to be out there. I need to be alone. I need to be testing myself, but I also need to be home, and I got to balance those things. I used to say that you're lucky if you can balance two things you love, but that doesn't make it any easier. It certainly doesn't make it any easier.
Yeah, it almost takes the spouse. Like, I think, I knew that I was a better person when I'd be back home after extended trips and some suffering and all that kind of thing. But kind of takes your spouse to notice that. You can't really tell them, well, I'm going to be a better person. But
that was something that when you were talking originally, I'm like, was it a show or tell thing? When
I
you
think it was her
figured it out?
noticing it in me. Like I would come back from a trip and I'd be not so stressed out. I'd be a happier, more loving with the kids, just a better person in general with all that energy I just kind of left on the mountain. And, I come from Washington State, we're in traffic all the time and you're sitting in line. You feel like you're always in a line. And then, long days at work, you have to have an outlet or your home life just kind of is so stressful. It sucks.
What's frustrating, I think, for the woman is I think if most women actually got down to it, it's not that you guys are going hunting. It's that you're going and you're getting a break and you're getting that peace of mind that we don't get.
Yeah.
Because that's what I said. Like if your wife is home with little kids, it's totally different now. My kids are 5 and 11. They're much more independent. I can tell them to go to bed and go to sleep in their own bed and they listen to me. I know we still have problems with that, but it's different than little babies. So I hear these women, like a patient today, he told me he has 4 boys under the age of 8. Okay, so imagine his wife. And you're going to now say to her, honey, I got to go feel better about myself.
This is the only
I'm
way.
going to leave. That is really hard for a woman who knows she is not going to get a break now at all for the next 5, 10, 12 days, however long you're gone. And she's just like, great, well, when do I get a break? When do I get a break? And the difference with the way women are wired when they have little children is Ryan will always say to me, well, go do something then. I'll come back. You go for a week with your girlfriends. It's really hard to do that when you have maybe a baby on your boob. That's really hard to do. If you got little children, they're into mommy. There's a certain age where they just need mommy. And as a woman, you even feel guilty. So he doesn't ever leave and sit up on the mountain and think, God, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe tell me if you do. I just miss my kids. I got to get back. Is she like paying the bills? Is everything okay? Are the kids being taken care of? He doesn't think like that because he's like, she's got it taken care of. That's how women think. If I leave for a week, I'm thinking to myself, not much anymore, but when they're little, I'm thinking like, is the baby staying up all night? Are things working? And women we're just wired to worry about our children. And so when a guy says, well, you can go do your thing, it's just not the same because you can't actually physically, mentally actually detach where he can. And that's the hormonal piece of it. And that's why I say, I think that's why women, if you really want to get down to it, I think that's why they get so frustrated because they just know that's not in the cards for them for a while. And then you keep having them. It's just not going to happen for a long time. So I think that I just tell guys like, do the simple things. And I said this on Randy's podcast, like you guys think we're really complicated. Like we're so complicated that we need all this stuff. Maybe some women are. I'm not. I'm like, my husband sends me a bouquet of flowers in a picture every single backcountry trip he has. He posts it on Instagram, which is a huge thing for me because it's saying to the world, like, I respect my wife, I care about her, and I thought about her enough to do this. And before there was Instagram, he did it with a picture. So a backcountry bouquet or whatever. And that's what we call it, the backcountry bouquet. And if I don't get it, I'm kind of like...
It is hard to track down a bouquet of flowers.
I know.
Especially in this country. You're like, here's a bouquet of sage.
Yeah.
And
smells
that's fine
nice.
with me. I just think like, okay, he took that time. And, back in the old days, we didn't have that capability. And he was probably younger and maybe he wasn't even thinking like that then. But me being more open to him going and having the experience now makes him more willing to give me what I want. And this is what I tell gals. It's like, if you are horrible to him and you're mean to him every time he comes home and you're in a fit and he has to walk into that mess and he's felt so great and he's so excited and he can't tell you his story, which was me for 10 years. Okay. You're not going to be happier. He's not going to give you what you want because you know how human nature is. You keep doing this thing where you think if I do this, he'll give me what I want. Or she'll give me what I want if I keep acting like this. The truth is, like in my marriage, if I keep acting like that, he just starts going like that. He does not give me what I want. If I give him what he wants, I take a step in, which I have a very hard time doing. I am I am funny in that way. I am a step-in type of person for work. Maybe just the work I do, I have a lot of compassion. I'm like this person that really wants to help people. But in my relationship with him, it's hard for me to step in because I feel like, because I'm a woman and I'm wired like, well, you should read my mind.
That's my favorite part.
And he's like, I'm a man and I don't read minds.
You know what I'm thinking.
That and the paper towels. Both those two things. What you're describing is my life right now.
I think it's every guy's life.
I think that's my life right now. And it's just like I always say I have to be good at like so many things. And sometimes when I come home, like, I had a really good day at work. My God, that was the best podcast. So many downloads. I'm the best. And I get home, I'm like, shit.
You're not the best, yeah.
I'm not the best now. I'm actually the worst now. Yeah. As soon as I walk in the door, and that's a tough thing to do, and specifically to like feeling better when you're not there. Man, that's a tough reality. Or like feeling good when you're not. Maybe feeling better, maybe in that way, but like finding this outlet that's not with your kids and your wife. That's a tough thing to really to realize. But it's like, this is true. And how am I ever going to balance this right? How am I ever going to tell these people I'm better when I'm not with you? How are they ever going to understand that?
Yeah.
Like, it's impossible to articulate.
It is. It's very tough.
Part of it, too, is you always feel like you're missing someone's life.
Yeah.
Like, I think of all the things I've missed in his life that I was never a part of. You know, that sometimes makes me think, like, I don't really know him because I've missed all these, like, really eventful moments. And, like, every time he pulls the trigger or, you know, lets that arrow go, like, I wasn't there for that experience. Like, I don't know what that's like with him. But now that he's doing films, he has a totally different look on his face when he's on the camera, meaning he's in the backcountry. His face looks different. He looks calmer. I told Gritty, Brian Call, I told Gritty, I was like, the first time I watched Ryan in a video series that Gritty made, I never got to see those moments ever. I never got to be in that moment where he was like right there and things were happening. I never got to see the experience. And so, I mean, I just texted Gritty and I was like, if nobody ever watches these things, thank you for doing these, because it's made me and my girls see their dad in what he absolutely lives for. Yeah. Because prior to this, we just didn't get that experience. Yeah. And that's what you miss when he comes home and he has that glow. And you're like, I missed out on that. I don't even know what that is. And you have to be a really mature person to be happy for that, because it's like this piece of you that's like, he doesn't have that with me. He doesn't have that look with me. Yeah. And so when I saw those films, I just thought, oh, we get to see that now. And it's helpful. It's really helpful. Yeah. And
you could articulate it like this, say, so many people, and it's kind of like the trope that we tried out as the American, you know, the American life, where I go off to work and I'm miserable. Right, I trudge off to my job. I come back, and I'm more miserable when I come home than when I left. It's a blessing to say, like, hey, when I leave and I come back, I'm better, because you know, all of us have to leave at some level, unless there's quarantine, of course. But but I think that's something that I've always realized. Like, this is, you know, you're incredibly lucky to be able to. I mean, both of you, and I think my wife and I are the same. Incredibly lucky to be able to say, I am incredibly lucky to walk out at the door. It's like, I love this. And that's really, again, back to I'm trying to balance two things I love rather than balance one thing I hate to the other thing I love. And that relationship is. Well,
I think the lesson, and we've matured in our relationship and what we try to tell couples, because this is a really common question, you know, this conversation we're having right now never got talked about. I feel like hunting was this thing and you never saw the spouses. You never saw what the woman was going through. And I tell you now, I've gotten so many emails from women distraught. They don't know what to do with themselves. And this has been so common and it's just been ignored. And I think as we've gotten older and more mature, you know, is we just want people to say, like, just be hot, like you just said. Like, be mature enough to look past yourself and to realize that your partner is fulfilled in their life and they're doing what makes them happy. Because if you see them when they're miserable, how many people complain about their partner just being a miserable wreck all the time? And then they start drinking too much, and then they start addictions, and they make horrible mistakes, and they do stupid stuff. And that's not the experience that I have with Ryan. You know, we've all made mistakes. And at the same time, it's like, let's get real about what he's doing and how it's actually affecting our family. And it's all positive. It's all positive. So you have to be a bigger person to look outside what you're not getting and realize that that person is their own person outside of the family. I'm my own person outside of my children, which can be really hard for children to separate from. Men have a much easier time doing that.
Yep.
Women don't. And I will tell my women patients, like, you are actually separate from your children. I know that's hard for you to hear, but someday your children will be grown and gone, just like you were with your parents, just like I was with my parents. And where are you going to be standing? And what is your relationship like with your spouse? Because, you know, hopefully Ryan and I are going to be together long after our children are grown.
Yeah.
And I know where he's going to want to be when he has that freedom. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to be because I spent a lot of my older life being a mother, and he has this. So, you know, there's different stages of life, but I feel like we'll be able to navigate those things because we have a common respect for each other. And that's really, I think, the word it comes down to. A lot of couples don't respect each other. Men need respect. Just having worked now with men a lot, if you respect a man, he'll pretty much like do anything for you. It's just like a friend. If you have a friend who you really respect and really respects you, even if your ideas are not the same, you'll pretty much do anything for that guy, right? Like, you'll carry an elk off the mountain. You'll go help him with his flat tire. You'll take care of his kids if you need to. Like, and I think the respect is a big issue. And in marriage, it's alarming how many people do not respect each other. I hear the stories.
Yeah.
Women do not respect their husbands. Men, they just don't know what to think.
How
They
many
may
of
not
them?
even respect their wife. They just they're so selfish. They're so self-absorbed. It's all about me. And they wonder why their wife is losing her mind and why she's depressed and why she has to be on antidepressants and why she's not sleeping. And people come in with all these health issues. I tell you, 85% of it, you get down to it, it's some sort of emotional issue that they have, and it's usually related to a relationship, whether it's a spouse or a parent or a child. And so these are all things that just follow us through our life.
Yeah.
And I feel fortunate that we were able to, and it happened because I chose to step in instead of constantly you fix it. I decided to step in when we got exposed to Train to Hunt. And I was like, maybe I need to really actually learn more about this. And then, bam, I have a hunting podcast.
And then next thing you know, that's how everybody gets into it.
Right.
But there's an interesting part of that where there's hunting is often like the bridge to things. For you, certainly, it has been. It, for me, is a bridge to the gardening, to making stock, to proximity to my food. It was a bridge to this idea that I've come to think is like the center point of some of the philosophies. Like, what's the proximity to the thing that I'm eating right now?
Right.
Or drinking, or it doesn't matter, consumption in and of itself. But it seems to me like you guys allowed the hunting to be the bridge to a better marriage, better life, to building the lifestyle.
We wouldn't be here without it because I finally made the decision. I didn't like the weather in Washington. I mean, I loved our garden. This is rough here for us, these gardening here, because we just had raspberries. We really had a wonderful life when it came to food. And we had cultivated that for 10 years, over a decade. And, it's hard to leave that. But I had to make the decision that I just wasn't happy in that environment. I grew up here in Montana, and I just always wanted to be back here. And so when I made the decision, we need to sell our house, we need to move, he struggled with it because his family's there. His livelihood was there. He was kind of a Northwest guy. His job revolved around that. Hunt, Harvest, Health, that decision that we made, it started growing. Now, you know how podcasting is. Maybe you don't, but I'm sure you do because you have a podcast. It doesn't make you any money, actually, I would say most podcasts don't make money unless you're a marketing genius or you have a machine behind you. Like you now have Meat Eater, which helps you out a ton. And we didn't have that. It was just like something, it just got exciting because people started emailing us, oh my God, we're just like you guys. And it was like, it was in the beginning, it was like thrilling and you wanted to do it and you wanted to share.
Well, it brought in that whole community thing.
The community.
And we got all these questions and we got to answer them. And it felt like you were making this difference. You were helping people. And, you know, we realized that we had a great life with food, a good relationship with food on both sides. It wasn't just meat, but it was all the other things as well. And, you know, when you start like teaching it and helping people and then seeing the response that comes back, it's really cool. And, you know, when Hillary talks about this, this community thing, it did actually take her to see these folks, these families in the hunting community and how real people they are, and just they're caring. They're some of the best people on the planet, right?
Yeah, agreed.
And it took her seeing those people. It wasn't me. Like,
no,
it wasn't me that convinced her.
Convince me of anything.
It wasn't me that convinced her that folks that hunt and garden and, you know, have this mad respect for food, that there's value there. But it took her seeing like our community of hunters that really do care about family, adventure, food, all those different things.
Their wives. They care about their wives. You know?
They're just good people.
You need to see that through other people, for sure.
That was it.
You have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What it took.
It's interesting. The community aspect has always been important to me. And I've always said, and I think it's probably true for you guys too, once you're in it, you're like, I'm just going to stay in this. For me, it's whatever the job is, fine. Maybe I podcast, maybe I do something else, maybe I write, maybe I whatever. It doesn't really matter. Maybe I guide it. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. It's like this pursuit to me, I see people like you, Ryan, like it's a craft. Like you are crafting. It's I don't want to say profession because it's not exactly that, but it's a craft. You know, you take years to hone it, and the better you get at it, the more you want to do, and the more you do, the better you want to get at it. So it's just like it's something that,
and that's something that seems rare these days, right? Like with the social media culture,
for sure,
everybody just overnight wants to be like an expert, and they think they can be an expert, and I guess we probably come from a generation where you worked and you had a job and you became something because you worked really hard. You know, when I went to medical school, like you couldn't really have a podcast or talking about health if you didn't have some sort of credential. But now, hey, anybody can do it. Yeah. It's even changed in 20 years, you know, how fast you can suddenly become an expert overnight. And I think what people find interesting about people that kind of stay with one thing, and people just don't have big attention spans anymore. They just don't stay with things. And so I think the intrigue with Ryan and anybody else that's maybe even Steve Ranella or you, whoever, like, this isn't just like something I did yesterday and now I'm talking about it. It's like this, I'd be doing this if nobody knew who I was. Like, this is what I love. And I've learned, you know, we talk about mentorship because Ryan wouldn't be here without his mentors that he's had in his life. And it's just so hard to find that nowadays where people are willing to share what they know. And there's just not a lot of people around that are willing to put the years, the decades into something before they even would consider sharing it with somebody. You know, Ryan's been doing this for 35 years. This is like what he does. And he's just now starting to understand he needs to start sharing it because it's you know.
I think it all comes in stages, right? I think, Ben, you probably would agree, I'm guessing. When we're young, 20s, I fully admit I was as selfish as anyone when it comes to hunting.
Yep.
I wanted less people out there.
Yep.
I mean, I wanted to see nobody. I didn't want to tell people how to do it or, you know, what to do or where to go or anything like that. But eventually you grow up and you realize, man, this thing that we do has so much value and it's given us so much. You really want more people, and we need it. We need people to understand it these days with where we're at. Less and less people are exposed to it. So you absolutely have to kind of play your part if you've done this thing for so long. It's given you so much. You better dang well give it back. And so we've kind of hit this place where it's really fun, and we're looking for avenues on how to get more people involved. It's not just hunting, though. It goes back to the gardening as well. It's kind of this lost, I don't know if you call it an art, it's this lost thing. Folks used to garden a heck of a lot more than they do now.
Yep.
Used to be part of their lives. And canning as well. And you're just making your own food and not just going out and eating at a restaurant or going to the supermarket and buying it. And it feels like it's kind of disappeared a little bit, but man, it seems like the goal should be to get it back, because it does have way more value than where we've been heading the last, I don't know how many years. And that's just lose your relationship with food altogether. And now it feels like we're making a difference a little bit and getting people to understand, like,
I think so.
Man, this gardening thing, you can really dive into it, and it's as fun as, maybe not as fun as a big adventure in the mountains, but you can really get into it.
It's close. It's in the ballpark.
And you feel accomplished when you get something to grow and grow well, and you get to reap the rewards at the end, and then you can it and you put it in this pantry. And you're looking at it, you're like, man, it's almost like filling the freezer with meat at the end of a trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan's super patient, though. Like, I am not patient. I've matured I'm a fine, matured, sort of patient person. I'm a future dweller. I'm always going for the future. I'm always, what's the next thing I need to do to get to this place? Like, go there. He's very present. That's a lot of where we butt heads. It's like, I'm already here. He's still back here, like, yo, like, we're still here. And I'm like, no, we're out here.
What can we do over here? Yeah, hunting does that, I think, a lot.
It makes him very present. And so these things that take time, you grow a garden, it's not like it grows the next day. You learn to hunt. Doesn't happen. You don't kill your first animal the day after you go out. Like, he's just super patient. And that may be an actual skill of a lot of really good hunters, is that they just, they settle in, they become present. And that is a skill, too, that's really being lost. I mean, we just are living vicariously through other people, through media. We don't have, like, this sense of calm. I mean, even me, I used to do yoga. I was a yoga instructor and meditation. And I've really gotten out of that, actually, being highly academic and cerebral and always having to learn and always having to do this. I find myself sometimes just like, oh my gosh, I can't keep up with this pace.
Yeah.
And the older I get, of course, it gets harder. But I find that's his meditation. That's why he's doing it. He's out in nature. He's away from all. That's the other thing. He comes back happier because he has not been around all this stress. He hasn't been around the phone. He hasn't been on his phone, which he's on a lot when he's home because he works from home.
Do you hate that? When you come back from like 10 days in the backcountry and you know that fucking phone's got to turn on and you're like, no.
You're like, no. I know if I take this off airplane mode, it's going to ding like 50 times in a row. And then you're in it. And that whole night you're replying. And
I think that's our bigger struggle we have now, because prior to this, he wasn't even on social media. So he used his phone mainly for business and for communication. And now with Instagram, and the whole reason we've actually been able to even get our small following that we have is because Ryan is diligent at responding to messages. He is diligent. He responds to Instagram messages. Like, I've had to put the kibosh on it some. Like, you can't respond to everybody, and like, you have to sit down and have dinner with us. Like, because he'll work all day or he'll be gone.
I feel like such a dick if I don't.
Was that Newberg's fault? I think he told me that one time. Or told somebody in our crew, like, hey, how did you really build the thing you built? It's like, man, I just took the time to answer every single person that I could, because that's really what's important. That's community, right? Like, the community is.
Yeah, if that's your goal, important. Is to grow this and build these folks up and, help them grow as hunters or answer their questions. Obviously, they're not going to ask it unless they need an answer. So it's very time consuming, but I feel better when I'm done. Yeah. And I've answered these questions. If they sit there in the requests pile and I don't get to them for a while, these days it's hard to do to get to them all. But you just want to help, if that's your goal, every single person that asks you a question. Sometimes they're not the best answers, but do your best and try to get them.
O'Reilly Auto Parts are in the business of keeping your car on the road. O'Reilly Auto Parts offer friendly, helpful service and the parts knowledge you need for all your maintenance and repairs. If you're confused about what part you need, like what wipers are going to be the best, what replacement headlights are going to be the best, go into O'Reilly and talk to the people that work there because they're great and they're super friendly and they'll get you squared away where you walk out knowing you got the right thing. They've got thousands of parts and accessories in stock, either in-store or online, so you never have to worry if you're in a jam. Do you need your windshield wipers replaced? You need a brake light fixed? You need some quick service? They'll help you find the right part or point you to the nearest local repair shop for help. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts are your one-stop shop for all things auto do-it-yourself, and you can find what you need in-store or online. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit us at O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. That's O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. You ever get that feeling you're stuck inside staring at screens and a primal urge kicks in? You crave wide open spaces, fresh air, the chance to connect with the land. Well, maybe it's time to find your own piece of the wild, but searching for property can be a maze. That's where Land.com comes in. They got millions of listings across the country, from mountain ranches to hidden fishing holes. Their search tools are like a seasoned guide helping you narrow down what you want. Land.com isn't just about buying and selling. It's about finding a place to hunt, fish, explore, or simply sit by a campfire and listen to the crickets. So head over to Land.com today to turn one day into today, because trust me, there's nothing quite like the feeling of standing on your own piece of earth. There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
We get into this world where, like, I see other people self-identify. Like, what are you? I'm a hunter. Like, that's okay. Like, you're getting the same value I'm getting. Same value proposition that I have, you have somewhere. Because I've seen it, to your point about the Western hunting culture. I've seen it in Eastern whitetail culture. I've seen it in Southern swamp culture. I've seen it in all these different cultures where it's the same idea. It's the same self-identity that, like, this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is why I'm the way I am at elsewhere in my life. It's kind of, this is the center point. So when you see that, you're like, whoa. Okay, let's create more of that because it's a good thing. Yeah, it really is a good thing. And for you guys, there's a million podcasts, right? Everybody knows that. But there's room for a million podcasts because for people like you, people just want to see themselves represented in the community. I think. I think they want to. It doesn't matter who it is. They want, like, in a time where people are thinking about inclusivity, seeing a married couple that's living this lifestyle, talking about it openly, being open about struggles. That's important. Like, that's extremely important. Yeah. And there's room for everything.
Well, it's saved our marriage pretty much. I mean, I just say that in a way that it brought us together. It brought us a common purpose that we didn't have before that wasn't outside of children. It brought us, so if we have a disagreement or we have something going on, which we have plenty of, we have this common thing now that we have to work it out. We have to figure it out, you know? And that's changed our marriage completely. I mean, me coming into the community and me feeling like I have a community now that I didn't feel like I had before. And him having a community, because he was literally like, you could count the number of friends he had on like that many fingers, not very many. And he was really introverted. And I always felt like he needed more social outlet. Like he needed more friends and we needed more friends together outside of our family unit. And so it just changed every aspect of our relationship together. And then the ability to move to Montana would not have happened without us making the decision to do that and starting it and the community embracing us, because, you know, he had a job where he had a lot of responsibility and he probably would have never left that job had he not seen that what he has to share is valuable. And I got my wish at coming back to Montana based on the fact that we did make that decision and that we worked it out.
And of course, at that point, I'm like, why didn't I not make this decision 10 years ago?
Yeah, but I mean, Ryan is also like, he's very patient and he's slow. Like he always has been. Like it takes him 6 months to research a car and buy one, where I'm just like, buy a car already. We need a car. So the whole idea of moving here and leaving what he knows there and coming somewhere new. And, he's not educated like I am. Part of the deal was that I was working part-time because we had babies and I had babies at home. So he was working hard for 20 years. He worked hard and never complained. He's also not a complainer. You will not get complaints out of Ryan, even after 2 or 3 nights of death march hikes out of the mountains with no sleep. He just doesn't complain. But I was seeing it take a toll on him and his health. And I realized that we needed to get out of there for that. And my income potential is much higher based on my education. And I could live to more of the potential of that because my children are older. And so we made this arrangement where it was like, okay, I'll take over that for a while, and that allows me to live where I want. That allows him to get out. And now that we're here, he is so much happier and creative. And all the things that you're seeing now, Western Hunting Summit, this is all the fact that we left and that he is now getting to do what he's done and he's so good at. And so, sometimes it's also, we do have people say like, well, I want to move to Montana. We get that a lot. Like, I want to convince my wife to move to Montana. And how do I do that? And it's like, you got to give her good reason. And, for us, it was.
Bring her here to visit in July.
Yeah.
Like June, July. Don't bring her in February.
Family's the hard part,
in
right?
the summertime, and it's going to be hard to leave and stay here.
The hard part is family. Women tend to want to be around family when they have little children, right? And leaving their family to come here. And that was, sorry, our dehydrator's going off.
That's a good.
I
gotta ask you about that. Is that one of those meat ones?
Meet your maker. Is that what they're
Made with meat.
Or made with meat.
Made with
yeah.
meat. I'm interested.
And
we got leathers going there. Sweet potato leathers.
Oof.
Cooking.
Yeah.
Yep. Sweet potato and apple.
See, there's like canned onions? What is that over there?
Canned onions.
Pickled onions,
beets.
pickled spicy onions, pickled beets. Yep.
It's living it, man.
But anyways, we could talk about this all day. We could talk about relationships all day, but it's transformed our life. And the hunting community, to me, I will always say now, is like, it's a community of really well-grounded people, at least the one that we're in.
Absolutely.
And I think that they need more help with health, and they need more people that are willing to come into this genre and talk to them like real people and not talk down to them like, oh, you're a stupid redneck hunter, like you don't know what you're doing. Like that's kind of what I feel. And it's just, that's kind of been my purpose now, is just to help. You can't help everybody, in the health sphere. Holy cow, everybody's doing everything. So when you go out in my world is like super saturated and people are talking about all kinds of crazy stuff. And I'll go do a talk at Western Hunting Summit and it's good, but Ryan will be like, oh, that was way over people's heads. Like, but then I'm thinking of my colleagues. I'm thinking about how I want to talk to my colleagues. And then like this year, he said I did better. Like I dumbed it down more.
Like, look,
I made people like relate.
Let's give it to them straight. What's important is we want to know how to hunt longer. Yeah. We want to know how to prevent overuse injuries. And that's been a big part of, what she's brought to the table, what she's brought to the community and the listeners is, for me, I've been very fortunate because I didn't used to be into all this healthy food and all this stuff. I thought, it's just way overpriced. Organic, blah, blah, blah. That was way early in our marriage. She's obviously gotten me out of that. And then we got into growing our own and all these things. But, I told her at this talk we just did, let's keep it simple. Let's talk about what's going to keep people from getting injured and what's going to help them. Inflammation. We talk about inflammation all the time. I feel like it's one of those things that we should always be trying to fight with everything through our diet, meals at home, meals on the mountain. That's why we started this whole CBD thing, because CBD was like this very interesting thing to me because I'm so into trying to combat inflammation. Yeah. You take 5-6 big hunting trips a year, been, and maybe they're long 10-day trips, they're big mountain trips, you're going to come away from that walking a little funny, like in the end. And I used to have weeks
Let me stop you real quick.
recovery.
I need some affirmation. Yoga? We good with yoga? Because I started doing yoga.
I love yoga. I was a yoga teacher before I had a massive, horrible bike wreck and wrecked my neck. But
I think yoga for hunting is key, man.
I think
it's
so.
flexibility, and it's one of the
core. When you're most tired is like on an archery stock, right? You're moving really slow. You're in weird positions, like yoga positions sometimes.
You're like, downward dog, he won't see me. But I think there's that too, like plyometrics, things like that really are for flexibility. Because when we were talking about my trip to Nepal, when I started, we had like a month. I'm like, oh shit, we're going in a month. What am I going to do? And we kind of landed on plyometrics. It's like, just if I'm more flexible, dude, if I can step at an angle, if my leg and my hip can move at this angle repeatedly, if I'm side hilling or whatever, that's gonna be better for me ultimately than running 10 miles a day. At some level, that flexibility, that
absolutely, core strength, flexibility, those things are huge. And like I said, where I always noticed, where you can hike 10 miles on a flat trail, it's easy. If you hike a lot with weight, it's not that bad. But on those really slow stalks where every muscle is strained and you're going snail's pace, in on a stalk on a muley buck or something like that, you come out spent, totally spent.
Oh yeah.
And that's where I think yoga type things help a crud ton.
Yeah.
So no, we're good with yoga.
Yeah.
I'm good with yoga.
That's good.
I love yoga.
I put that out in the public a couple episodes ago.
Did you?
Got a lot of support from the community, but I just feel like there's somebody out there judging me.
Changing, right? Like my grandpa would have been like, yoga, what the hell is wrong with you? But now, people are doing yoga.
It's way more mainstream now than it was.
They want to be functional longer.
Yeah.
I don't know what your grandparents like, but I had awesome grandparents. My mom's parents are still alive. But when my dad's parents were like in their 50s, they were like old. My grandpa went fishing and he played golf. My grandma had the shampoo set. She like knitted, and they just seemed old to me. And I feel like nowadays, we're almost 50. I feel like you're just starting, like,
I feel like that's,
it's a different time. So this whole thing of like, I don't do yoga. It's actually like people are like, okay, I'll do yoga because whatever I can do to like stay healthier, stay younger, feel better.
That should be the goal. Should be the goal. It does, whether you feel weird about it or whatever you can take in as far as foods go, and inflammatory stuff, exercising. Like I say, we're 46, 47 years old right now. And there's no way when I was in my 20s, I feel like I would feel this good. I remember the 30-year-olds being like, oh, wait till you're 30. You're not going to be running up that hill, like you are now. But
that's always the trope.
It's like, I'm 40, am I 46 or so?
46.
46. I feel better now than I did in my 20s. And I know that was a product of meeting Hill, her helping me with my diet, her getting me on the right sups and foods and things like that, where I don't get that lactic acid buildup. I don't get the soreness afterwards. So I feel as good now. I feel better now, way better now than I did in my 20s, which is great because I want to do this for so long. And these big trips are so easily doable now. Hiking farther than
plus where you
else.
live, man.
Yeah.
I was watching a little documentary with my son the other night about adventure, skiing in France and surfing and who knows where. He said, the world is big. How could I see it all? I said, listen, don't worry about the world. The Gallatin National Forest is big.
Right.
You ain't going to see all that in your whole life. Like
that's that we were talking when you got here. It's like this place that we live here in Montana. It's a playground. There's so much to explore, and it's exciting. And the only way that you're going to see maybe not all of it, but enough of it is to be healthy.
Yeah.
You lose your health.
Yeah.
All those experiences go away.
Yeah.
All those adventures, all the opportunities to see another basin, a whole new mountain range, and pick a direction from Three Forks, Montana. You've got them every which way.
Doesn't matter.
They're all over the place.
Beautiful.
I don't need to go to another country. I got it all right here in Montana.
I was telling you,
never going to see it.
People ask me like, "What are you doing this fall? Where are you going?" I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm right here. I'll go over there.
Yeah. We used to argue about that. That used to be one of the fights we had, is that, he traveled a lot. He was in Alaska a lot, Russia a lot, and Kamchatka. He worked over there when we were first married for a long time. But I like to travel to Europe. I had a job that would take me to Europe. I'm kind of a history buff, so I like that kind of stuff. He's like, if you take me to another church, I'm going to lose my marbles. I can't do it. So I would be like, well, we need to travel and see the world. And he's like, I could spend my entire life just in Washington in the mountain ranges and never see a second place twice. And he's like, I don't need to be going to all these fancy places because I know what just even the West alone has to offer. And Montana, of course, is
so it's on steroids. It's like, but then you get that intellectual property that only you have, at least only you share with that place.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty intimate. It's like, dude, I'm proud of that intellectual property, even if I don't kill shit. I know that place now. I know there's nothing there. And
and I remember, and maybe you're the same, Ben. Is I remember every place I've been to in the mountains. I don't remember a club in Seattle. I couldn't tell you how to get there.
The Costco, that Costco aisle. Is that the Costco aisle with the Cheez-Its? I have no idea.
Drive. Oh, God,
I could go to my local market here, and I can't remember where the bacon is, but I can tell you where I've seen every basin that I've seen a buck, what that buck was. Those type places are special, and there's a reason why I remember. I migrate to that. The city blows my mind. I get lost. I lose sense of direction. It's just a big fog.
Yeah, he's not.
But you get into the mountains, and I don't know. You just pay attention more, I guess, for me.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. It's like you could never see the same place twice, and every single place is a whole new area to learn. And I want to learn. I want to dial in every little mountain range. And when you're chasing animals, it just makes you learn it that much more.
Yeah. And
you're not just hiking.
I think the thing that I like most about where we are as a community, where you guys are with your brand and what you do, is it's like hunting seems, when I was a kid, hunting was myopic. It was like you hunt, you fry the backstrap, you have fun with your dad. I love my dad. He was a great teacher and mentor, still is today. But it was just, it wasn't even his fault. It was just, that's how it was. But now it's holistic. All this stuff that we're talking about, we talk about anthropology, zoology, learn how to learn a place, how to learn the natural world. But then you guys bring in, inflammation and all these other
anatomy,
subjects,
physiology,
right?
all the things that allow you to hike the mountain, and even when you're dressing out that animal, knowing anatomy and knowing
muscle
what
groups
you have to know in order to properly do it, and knowing how to take care of meat, and knowing how, a lot of people, those skills, people don't know that stuff. And it seems just second nature to you hunters that have learned it, but it's all of anatomy and physiology play into just almost everything. And, with health, you just see so many people just take their health for granted for so many years. And then when something does happen where they're not able to be, and the statistics are everybody will deal with that at some point in their life. Everybody will have a trauma or a health crisis or something that's going to plague them. And, the question is, I think the other question is, have you had enough adventure in your life to maybe get you through those harder times where you're not going to be able to have an adventure? Yeah. And I think in a lot of times too, it's the will to experience those adventures again that maybe why some people pull through and others don't, because there's a purpose that you've had where you've seen it and you've been there, and maybe it gives you purpose to get back there. And so you may have more of a fighting chance. But the films that Ryan's doing with Brian Call right now, there was a comment the other night. We were all sitting here having dinner after the summit, and Brian read a comment about a guy who had a hunting injury. It was a gun injury. He got shot in the neck. And he's a quadriplegic, and he said he just got a tractor, which is a quadriplegic chair that can kind of take them. And he said, I just got that, and just watching your guys' video just makes me long for just being out there. And so he's a quadriplegic, but now he's thinking about, how can I get back out there and do what makes me happy? And I think, all of us can be faced with horrible tragedies in our lives, and how do we get through that? And I think possibly those those memories of those adventures in those places might help carry you through.
Yeah.
You know, and
Absolutely.
a lot of people don't have that. They don't have those things.
And we see it in the comments. And there's a lot of comments from older gentlemen that
just can't do it anymore.
they can't do it anymore, and you can see they're saddened by that because they got what we're doing now they used to do, and they got a lot out of it. But whether it was an injury or just age or whatever, and you can kind of feel for them through their comments, like this is something they really, really miss, and they appreciate just being able to watch it get done like they used to do it.
Yeah,
I see that a lot, and that just kind of reinforces that. Don't take this for granted. Something could happen. That's why every season is very important. Stay healthy, do it to the limit, and get as much out of it as you possibly can.
Yeah, and you see like how for us that we're always we talk about this, and when I started this show, I'm like, I got to make more hunters. How do I do this? What do I do? And like they're kind of making themselves at this point. Like you just kind of share what this is and open new perspectives up, and they kind of just
I think
make themselves.
Totally true. Yeah.
I think like for me, it's been amazing what I've seen from like what I would have considered my community not being open to this is like they all know Ryan and they know how he is and they see him bring this meat home and they're like, oh my gosh. Like, and then, we've had multiple friends that like I went to school with, they want to learn to hunt. They want to learn about weapons. They want to learn about the backcountry. They see this and they've already got that cerebral thing down, the health thing down, and they're realizing there's something missing. I'm not providing. Or men that grew up in the city and they grew up in academia and they did not have a father who hunted or who did that. And they see this and they're just like, well, I really don't know where to start with this, but I really want to try it. So, like, should I get a bow or a rifle or what should I do? How do I go about it? And it's kind of bringing the communities together because I think too, what we're seeing right now in the world is this clash going on that's happening where, obviously we have all these political issues. We have all these race issues. We have these things coming up in the world right now. But a lot of that experience is partly that people are there's something missing that's like inside of us that we have kind of let go because we have the conveniences of life, like the common suffering of providing for yourself has kind of gone away with the exception of just making money. Like just make money. That's what's important. And that's what we teach people. Like you got to make money or you got to be famous or something. Like just be famous, make a lot of money. But now we're seeing people just like, especially with the COVID thing, like, wow, the food supply chain could be disrupted. Simple things you don't think about when life is easy, when things are easy. And it brings people to this place where they realize, maybe could be much more self-sufficient than I am. Yeah. And it doesn't matter. Race doesn't matter. Sex doesn't matter. Socioeconomic status doesn't matter. Like, how do I get to that place where I feel like I am actually providing in a way that is healthy and that I'm not dependent on the system? Because that's what's happened is we've all become so dependent on the system that it seems almost impossible to think about what that would mean to get out of that. Yeah. For us, we were really lucky. Ryan had that mentorship. You had that mentorship. But think of it, 80% of the population does not have that.
Come on over.
Come on. 80% of the population doesn't have that. So it can be quite overwhelming. But we've noticed a huge influx, even just since COVID happened, of people asking those questions.
Well, I'm sure.
Right? And how do we do this? How do we start canning? What do we buy? Like just stuff like that. So
jars first.
I think it's helping. We just love that our communities were kind of brought together, and it decreases a lot of judgment and your self-perceived notions of what you think is right, and people start to realize that we're kind of all in the same show.
Yeah. And how much of that system is actually making you happy? Like how much of that is contributing to your happiness? The system that it makes things easier, is it really making you happier? Probably not. It's that struggle we're talking about that makes you happier. Trying
Absolutely.
to figure out how to grow a tomato in the plains of in the plains of Montana.
Struggle is real.
That's
here,
real.
where we're at. No doubt about it.
Absolutely. Well, we'll let you get back to these two little ones who are visiting us.
Oh, I think everyone's hungry.
It's a party. Yeah, I probably got to get back to mine. There's somebody crying at my house. I can hear it from 30 minutes away. Well, thanks, guys, for doing what you do and being a voice for very important topics.
Well,
all the way
thanks for
around.
coming
Yeah,
out
I really
and
appreciate you
inviting
coming
us.
out,
Oh,
and seeing the
it's my
place
pleasure.
here, and having us on, Ben.
Yeah, we're going to have to go beat ourselves up in the mountains.
Absolutely, that would be great. Love
Cool.
to.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
You're welcome.
That's it. That's all. Another episode in the books. Thanks to Hillary and Ryan for having me in their home, which is a pretty beautiful home. I'm thinking about moving to a farm, Phil.
Yeah, you don't like the suburb life?
I don't really like it at all. No.
No.
No offense
It's
to my
got
neighbors.
it's
if
got
you're
pros and
listening.
cons for
yeah,
sure.
it's not great. It's not great. So we may have the THC Regenerative Ranch here in Bozeman before
Ooh,
long.
there
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah, I'm really been thinking hard about it. So if anybody knows of any properties that are for sale for about 50, 60 grand, I'd like to get 20 acres like that. Mm-hmm. So whatever. Let
Good
me know.
luck.
Let me know. I got a little money to spend. Maybe we can get a sponsor or something. You never know.
Yeah.
It's all about sponsors here.
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, what did you learn, Phil? Give me something. What did you learn from Hillary and Ryan? What are you going to do better? I told my wife she has to respect me.
I don't think you took away the right lessons from
I
the
went
conversation.
home and I'm like, respect me. And she threw me out. Can I sleep at your house?
I mean, it's I think a lot of just the typical stuff you hear about marriage counseling. It's a huge communication aspect. Be honest and give as much as you take. I mean, that goes a long way.
It does. Well, I want to address a few things. There's a couple things that have been kind of circling around my head. So here at the end of the show, I want to address a couple of things. And I want to see where your head's at too, because it's gonna set what we're gonna do in the months to come. There's some issues I want to cover. We talked last week about the New Zealand tar call issue. We're going to cover that in a future episode for sure, top to bottom, hopefully. But there's another thing that obviously is prevalent in our society and should be more prevalent in our conversations here. I'm going to read you an excerpt from a long email from Daniel Lucio. Hopefully I'm saying your name right, Daniel. From Austin, Texas, my former stomping grounds. And this is going to be important, so you're going to have to listen up, Phil. He says, recently I've been incredibly disheartened and disappointed by y'all's response, or lack thereof, to the national conversation around Black Lives Matter and the cultural shift that's happening in our country right now. As you may know, the history of land conservation in this country is inextricably tied to racism and white supremacy, and many people in the hunting and fishing communities are hungry for discussions about how to come to grips with this history and move forward with the things they love. Despite your ostensibly moderate views, you don't seem to have people on your programs that challenge your perspectives on this issue. There are plenty of people who could be on your show that believe in fishing, hunting, public land conservation, and responsible gun ownership, while also believing we should be questioning our country's racist history and supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. That's from Daniel. He wrote a long note, which I responded and asked him for some suggestions for who he thought we should have on. Had a little bit of a back and forth with Daniel. I appreciated, although he was, tossing out some fairly harsh criticism, he was also pretty cool about it. Just like, hey, man, this is what I think you ought to do. Love the show. Appreciate it. If you're ever in Austin, I'll buy you a sandwich. Whatever. Like, he was very reasonable in the discussion. So I would just say, and I would preface all of this by saying I've gotten plenty of notes from people pressing these buttons and asking for more. And as I did tell Daniel, and then as you well know, I think about this a lot. We've talked about it. We've talked about it over multiple episodes. We did it. We were proactive with it prior to the current unrest and the George Floyd situation. We've talked about it since. We had Charles Rodney on to give his perspective and his story. We talked a little bit about it with Matt Best and Crispy, Omar Avila. So we've talked about it. I know you think about this a lot, Phil. Do you have, what's the future of this conversation? Is there stuff you'd like to see that you or hear that you haven't heard? This is just basically a meeting. We're in a conference room, and people are listening.
I mean, I'm fully on board with that email, and I mean, I think I stated this to you, and I think we got a voicemail from one of your listeners that it felt that when you said that you talked about it with Crispy and Matt Best and Charles Rodney, even if this wasn't obviously this wasn't the goal of your conversation, but coming off of that conversation, what I felt the vibe was just kind of like, be nice and
pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
That's the line, and everything will work out just fine. If everyone would just do that, it would be great.
Listen,
and that's just I feel like that's unrealistic. While obviously, like, I love your conversations with Charles Rodney, but that's just one perspective. And I think I think having more on would be incredibly interesting and beneficial.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I don't want it to, I feel you don't want it to be, for this to be like a reactionary thing where you're like, well, we should just have on some different black guests because of the current situation in the country. Is you don't want to make them feel like tokenized or anything, but at the same time, I believe representation is incredibly important, and that hearing different stories, especially on a podcast like this, is really fulfilling and important to do.
Well, it's important. Much as we joke around, it's important that your perspective is important because it doesn't come from this insular idea of what hunting is, what the industry is. Because a lot of times inside the industry, you feel like you're inside looking out at the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
You feel like you're inside this group of people and you're looking out at the world, and you're also kind of like playing the game where, does this benefit me to talk about this? If I go deep and if I ask these hard questions, am I going to get canceled? Am I going to get fired? Is there going to be an email sent to me, that says this isn't the right way to handle this, or you said something wrong, or you misstepped? And I think that partly was what aggravated me about the Matt Best, about many people's reaction to what Matt Best said. I get the critique. I understand the critique. I just feel like he was expressing his worldview, and he was doing it in a fashion that was meant to be uplifting. I get that doesn't match other people's worldviews. I get that. There's opposing viewpoints on how to deal with things and what realities are out there within these now loaded terms of white supremacy and systemic racism and things of that nature. And so I did write Daniel back, and I said, listen, man, you be prepared at some level to be made uncomfortable with where we go with this, because I'm not going to do this without challenging narratives on both sides, all sides, and saying, like, what really is going on. But I got another email from Aaron Towsley. He sent me a link to a blog, and he said, I think it's a good thing, if not painful, that there's a cultural reckoning of heroes like Teddy Roosevelt and John Muir that have been turned into myths and are being shown to be real people with flaws just like all men and women. And this is we talked about this with Carolyn Finney in episode 89. And again, I go back to that, and I told Daniel this as well. I'll go back to that, man. That I feel like that's one of the better. I don't know that I can do better than that in this moment. Not saying I won't try. Not saying that we're not going to continue to kind of work through some of this stuff. Not to say we're going to just empty all our baggage out here and try to figure out what's there. But as I listened to it back a couple of times and I thought about it, I'm like, man, we're going to try to do better than that, but I think that's the best I can do, approaching it honestly, saying, like, I'm not real sure about all this, but I want someone who's experienced it to tell me what they think, and then, we can all learn together, hopefully. But the blog that Aaron sent me was entitled No Heroes, The Racist Legacy of John Muir and American Conservation. It was written by somebody named Caitlin Schneider. Not really familiar with her at all, but she goes through John Muir as a naturalist, the kind of the mythical naturalist that he became. President Teddy Roosevelt obviously is a mythic figure within conservation within our world. I traveled to the likes of Jim Poswitz's house. He has a whole bookcase that talks about Teddy Roosevelt, and she has a long writing here talking about how that these gentlemen want to wax poetic about nature, but also want to be racist as well, which we talked about with Carolyn in episode 89. So what do I say about all that? What do I think we ought to do? Caitlin, at the end of this article, says, she says this: I had planned on visiting Yosemite for the very first time this summer after relocating to California just before the COVID-19 pandemic hit. I wanted to camp out under the stars, shoot the shit with friends, and bask in the majesty of its vistas. Instead, I'll stay home and bask in many stories about bears, coyotes, bobcats, and deer who are reclaiming the park from invasive tourists. I look forward to someday seeing what inspired me here so intensely, but for now, I'm okay staying away. The place was never mine to have anyway. And she's referring to the environmental movement. The national parks movement as a whole has a racist history filled with everything from erasure to a lack of diversity in academia to eugenics and white supremacy, and of course, larger systemic issues like the Sierra Club's own anti-immigrant history, and then those figures she mentioned. So that's a very wrapped up, very complex, very American story about how we address these figures, how we hold up all the good they did, and how we explore all of the, in this case, relatively awful things that they did in their life, their beliefs as a whole, rather than take some of the history and parse out what we like and kick out what we don't like. So we're going to continue to talk about that. I just wanted to acknowledge all you listeners out there that have been emailing in and asking about this. I'm definitely thinking about it all the time, as many of you are, and we're not afraid to address it, and we will continue to talk about it. And hopefully that this little conversation and outro is certainly, in all conversations we've had, episode 89, all the episodes with Charles Rodney where we talked about this. We talked about this with Steve Ranella last fall. We talked about this year a bunch, and we'll continue to talk about it. We're not going to just talk about it when there's riots or protests. We'll just keep talking about it until there's a better representation of all races and minorities in hunting, and people feel like they're reflected in this community. So that's what I want to do. Phil, do you feel like that's like, I would just say my goal is not to make my opinion known all that much, is to say, like, I want people to see themselves reflected in what we do. So there's a bit of rejection of tokenizing someone, because I would much rather err on the side of someone seeing someone like themselves who thinks like them in our world and feeling more comfortable given that idea than me being worried about whether I'm taking someone who looks different than me than holding them up for some personal reason. So that's kind of where I land on what we're going to do in the future. So I just wanted to address that and let everybody know, Daniel included, Aaron included, Phil included, that we're thinking about it. We get it, Phil?
Right on.
We'll see you next week. Bye.
Too long, 'cause I can't go a week without doing wrong. Oh, without doing wrong. Without doing wrong. Oh, without doing wrong. Drinking in heaven.
You ever get that feeling the walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating you? You crave some wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe in a spot all your own. Well, head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forests, mountains, streams, you name it. Search by acreage. You can search by location. You can search by the kind of hunting and fishing you're dreaming of. Land.com. It is where the adventure begins. Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the engineer is going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay, every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Arts Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon, and May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.